On today's show, CP3 is back, addressed the fans, had media availability, and said some things that, for me, put him right back in the greatest Clipper of all time conversation. Going to be talking about what Chris Paul said on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the team for 5 on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, and 3 right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video on the road to 8K, and listen wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Clipper Nation. CP3 is home, as you all know, and that's going to be the theme of this first segment, as well as we're going to be talking about what he said about the current team and his mindset going into this season with this roster, and of course, if this will be his last season. But let's begin with what transpired on Monday. I did an episode on CP3 coming back and how excited I was about it. But the Clippers were doing an event, a homecoming event for certain season ticket holders to greet Chris Paul as he returned to Intuit Dome, did a short interview with ESPN, then did media availability with our guys, including Dave McMenamin, who usually covers the Lakers for ESPN, and then spoke in front of the fans. It was one of the most surreal experiences for me as a Clipper fan in my 20 years of fandom. When Chris Paul came out, because I hadn't seen the interviews yet. I was at the event. I hadn't seen the interviews on ESPN in full or what he said to our media guys in full. But when he came out and was just right there again, CP3 back here with us, I had to start the CP3 chants. You already know. And I mean, if you don't believe that I was the one that started, we can check the video. I mean, it is what it is. Somebody probably would have started them anyway, though. But, just brought back the memories of those playoff runs. I say runs, they weren't that long, but you know what I mean. Those years in the playoffs where it was all very, very new to us to have consistent playoff teams. You know what I mean? And so my overall take was this was just such an incredible experience. And the reason why I say he's back in that conversation for greatest Clipper to me is because, I'd say it was Blake up until like last week. But here's the thing. I honestly don't push back when people have Chris Paul as the greatest Clipper of all time. But I think if you're going outside of those two, I think you're, being ridiculous. When it comes to the Bob McAdoo discussion, I think they're just kind of different. He played for Buffalo. I'm not going to say because of the era he played in. Definitely not. The 70s were good. But he had the ABA at the time. Here's the thing. Even though the ABA existed, and you could argue that, Dr. J in the league, would Bob McAdoo have won that MVP? I don't know. But the point is, Bob McAdoo was still like that. However, he played for the Buffalo Braves. I know it's the same franchise, but I don't care what happened in Buffalo. That couldn't be further from LA. I care about what happened in LA. I don't even care about what happened in San Diego like that. I care about what happened in LA because that's the only reason I'm a fan is because they played in the same arena as the Lakers and it was equidistant. If there was a team that was further, I would have been a Laker fan. No question. So in the LA Clippers history, when we moved to LA in 1984, you can throw some other names in there. Danny Manning, for sure. Elton Brand, I mean, he made me a fan. He and his team. But let's be honest. Kawhi, Paul George as well. Let's be honest. It's Chris and Blake. 6 straight years of playoff appearances, changing our franchise forever, getting sellout streaks, actually being the talk of the basketball. I mean, we're obviously not going to be talked about as much as the Lakers, but who was the premier attraction in terms of winning basketball in those years? Of course, it wasn't the championship basketball that we've seen with the Lakers as Angelinos, but it was the most fun team in the NBA for those years, undoubtedly. And we were on national television 30 plus times a season, and we're always involved in some epic series, whether it be that Grizzlies series, the Warriors series in 2014, or the Spurs series. And it was with Chris Paul and Blake at the helm. They were in commercials, Blake Griffin doing Kia, and then you had CP3 doing State Farm. I mean, it was just everything changed. The Clippers had never been a commercial team like that because, I mean, Elton Brand, Sam Cassell, like we kind of surprised teams, got into the playoffs that year. It was a one-off year. Sean Livingston messed up his knee the next year, and it was different. We never experienced anything like Lob City. I know in the 90s we had 2 straight years of postseason, but bounced in the first round. It's nothing like what Lob City was. Setting the record, still 57-25, 2013-14 Clips, most wins in franchise history. So Chris Paul, for me, top 2 Clipper, but just having him back, having him come back and choose to retire a Clipper and the things that he was saying, it validates everything I've said since you guys have known me as the content creator about why I was critical of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard as the faces of our franchise. Kawhi obviously doesn't involve himself with the whole like fanfare and, being a vocal spokesperson for the franchise. He just goes out there and plays. Paul George says a lot and then doesn't really back up his talk. James Harden does it better than both of them, I think. He's great with the fans. He says a lot of the right things. But Chris Paul is just more of like a extrovert personality. You know what I mean? He just, we're talking about the president of the Players Association, and he just said all the things that reminded me of why I liked him so much and why I feel so strongly about, the way that Paul George and Kawhi have represented us as a franchise, as a franchise that has a lot to prove still. I just think Chris and Blake gave me a different feeling as a fan. Now, that doesn't mean that they're the 2021 Clippers are the closest we've ever been to a title objectively. I still think if you're arguing that Lob City versus 2-1-3 what was a better era, you're just a joker if you believe that it's not Lob City. It's just laughable how much more fun those regular seasons were too. But Chris Paul changed everything, and to hear him be back, let's just start, before I talk about any quotes, let's just start with the fact that he comes out, we start chanting CP3, and the dude has to stop and take a second to see what the hell is going on, because I'll be honest, I did not expect there to be that many people in the room, and starts shedding tears because he's back playing for the Clippers. When was the last time we saw Clippers shed tears because of this franchise, because to be here? And of course, there's a large element. The largest element is that his family is with him. It's not about us. Let's be real. But we adopt, LA, even though he's on the minority side, the Clippers side, we adopted Chris Paul as our guy. He is, we say welcome home for a reason. He spent 6 years with the Hornets and 6 years with the Clippers. But it's time for that tiebreaker to be broken. Because as of this season, Chris Paul will have played more seasons with the Clippers than any other franchise. And he is one of the greatest point guards to ever play this game and a top 75 player. He will be retiring into the Hall of Fame as a Clipper. And he will be a Clipper for longer than any franchise. And clearly this is where he considers home. Los Angeles, California, with the Clippers. Thank God he never teamed up with LeBron and the Banana Boat crew and put on a Laker uniform that would have literally made me vomit and go crazy. He's home. And to see him tear up like that, that meant the world to me as a fan. This is, Chris is really back. This is really a thing. And I know you're like, dude, can we just talk about basketball? No, we're not going to talk about basketball yet, because Brian Seaman said it best. That whole time Chris Paul was talking, it was 80% sentimentality and the emotions of this move of Chris Paul, a top 2 Clipper ever. Again, now because he chose to come back and have this second chapter, I think he's right there with Blake. Because Chris Paul was better than Blake when we had them together. Let's be real, man. I love Blake. Blake is. See, I had Blake as my favorite Clipper of all time a week ago, but Chris was my favorite when we both had him because I was a point guard. So, it's close again, man. This is a great feeling. I get to cover the Clippers with Chris Paul. Do you know how special this is for me? I hope it's special for you to listen to a diehard fan. Because at the end of the day, and I've talked about this, I have not spoken about our star players with that, kind of reverence or that kind of Some might say a lack of appreciation. I just don't. I have reasons for everything, and I explain them all. But it's so nice to like have a player on our team that like a legend of our franchise that I get to like glaze, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like it's just like I feel like I haven't been enough of a pro any player guy since I've been a host of this show, and Chris Paul's back. Like he has his basketball flaws, he has his leadership flaws, but I mean, for him to say he tried to speak this into existence a while ago, it's a no-brainer. He's so grateful to be back. Like, come on, man. It proves everything I always said when people are like, Chris Paul was better with the Hornets. Like, maybe for these peak seasons, those 2 years, '08 and '09, he was better than any version of the Clippers because he had that knee surgery before he came to us. But, like, in totality, if you'd argue that the Hornets run is as good as the Clippers, you're just like a liar. You're just a freaking liar. He's always going to be most remembered as the leader of the Lob City Clips that changed the Clippers franchise forever. And I mean, he said it himself. He's always been connected to this city. After he left Houston, his family was here. He talked about community, all the philanthropy work he does and how he wants to get, do that again. And I mean, it's just surreal to have Chris back. He was such a great ambassador for this franchise, he and Blake. And those are my favorite years as a fan. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, they were met with some disappointment, but if you want to look at them like this, I think 2012 was disappointing. No, it wasn't. I'm sorry. 2012 was awesome. Literally such a fun year. We weren't supposed to beat Memphis, but we did. 2013 was an amazing regular season, like the most fun regular season ever, but then in the playoffs it was disappointing. 2013-14, fun regular season that I didn't appreciate enough because I was really butthurt about the previous year. Playoffs were great. We lost to the Thunder after having a huge ownership scandal in the middle of the series, but the Thunder were better than us. They were just been in the finals. They were the 1 seed the previous year. They were just better than us. And then 2015, amazing regular season, really fun postseason. Obviously, we choked, and that was really sad. Then the last 2 years were a little bit more all over the place, but we still had 2 pretty fun regular seasons. A little frustrating, though, with all the injuries, and then in the playoffs, injuries. So a lot of that wasn't Chris Paul's fault. And I say that to say that he talked about it. He said, I'm not dumb enough to realize when I left, it wasn't the prettiest thing. There were reasons here, there on both sides, but you live and you learn. And again, yeah, Chris was a little unprofessional with, what he said about the Clippers culture and kind of blasted us like that. But again, I always say that we had Glenn Rivers running president of basketball operations and coaching and gave his son money. Like, no professional athlete is going to like that. I don't even like daddy ball at the rec center, let alone, in the NBA. I can't imagine. But coming up, what did Chris Paul say about beating the Clippers with the Suns? Going to be talking about that and his role, what he said about his role in the team coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Monarch money. So ever since I lost my house, I have been scrambling and doing so many different things that I don't even realize what I've been paying for per month, those monthly charges. So I got Monarch money and I used the code LOCKEDONNBA for 50% off my first year, and it gave me a much easier breakdown per month of what I was paying for. And I realized I was paying for the YMCA all these months because during the fires I wanted my kids to have a gym to play in because our gym wasn't available. And I never canceled the subscription, and I've been just so busy, I haven't gone to that YMCA enough. So I realized, oh my God, I should probably start going. And if it wasn't for Monarch money, I probably wouldn't have even remembered or realized that I've been getting charged that much money per month. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, CP3 is back, and if you want to see Clipper fans' thoughts on that and the whole, interview with Brian Seaman or whatever you want to call it, the sit down, it is on my Dime Dropper channel, so you can check that out. His media availability with our crew, the usual suspects, Joey Lynn, Money Mona, La Murray, Tomer, is on the Clippers YouTube channel and the NBA YouTube channel. So go check those out. But Dave McMenamin asked him about beating the Clippers. Of course, a Laker reporter asked us about, he's also a national guy, but asked about the Suns game 6, and Chris said, that was a surreal thing because, doing it in LA against my extended family, he said it was like a full circle moment for him, getting to the finals for the first time and doing it on our floor. And look, I was in the building that night. It was, I can't say it was bittersweet. I can't say it was any sweet because we lost, you know what I mean? And I'm a Clipper fan. And it was annoying because Chris Paul had not played well that series, and I wanted to beat his ass because, again, I compared it to like that ex-girlfriend. Like you want them to, and that you're not like, you don't hate them, right? You like, it ended pretty bad. You had a lot of great memories together. You still have love for them, but like, you don't want them to find love before you're petty about it. You don't want them to find love before you do. You know what I'm saying? You want to be happy and satisfied that you found someone better before she does. And then you like want the best for her. Once you get yours, you want the best for her. That was what I was like on Chris, what I was like about Chris Paul. I didn't want him to win a ring without us. Nah. Like I just didn't. I want you to be ringless if it means you don't play for us anymore. I want you to be in that John Stockton category, which I think he probably will go into. But still, now I get to root for him again. He's back where he belongs. It's a great thing that he didn't win with the Suns because, like, the Suns, you know how much I hate the Suns. So he said, I wanted to get back and play here by any means necessary. And then he started talking about, this was the most special part of all. He starts talking about the fans, like talking about these specific fans that he always gives a hug to. It's just, you see, he already knows Brian Seaman. He already knows DJ Dents. Like, it's just so special. He literally shouted out section 114. For those that don't know, section 114 is like the original diehard Clipper fan section. And he talked about how if they scored 114 points, those guys would get tatted. And I know Clipper fans in real life that were in section 114 and always appreciated every member of Lob City for that connection with 114. I know, and they did get tatted. I know my boy, I'm pretty sure my boy Jorge, that's in my vlog sometimes, he was 114 and he's tatted with the Clipper logo. So CP3 like was really one of us. Like he was really a Clipper. And this stuff proves what I was always saying. Like for the people that just jumped on the wagon when we got Kawhi or Paul George or the stands that listen to the show all the time that are only here because of Kawhi or Harden, this is the type of stuff that Chris Paul would say that made me feel like I mattered as a fan. And I think for all my European listeners or my, foreign listeners, or let's say you guys have like football in your countries, right? The culture of fanfare in football and European football or in South American, there's such a connection between club and players and fans. And in American sports, I think we kind of downplay that, especially outside of the NFL, and make it so much about the players and not as much about the fans, and the fans are spoiled, the fans this. It's just, I feel like the fans just don't get the love anymore. And that's one thing I try to show on Dime Dropper all the time is the fans. And CP3 just always found a way to, shout us out, find a way to make us feel important. And that's part of what made me I was never able to get mad at him. And it was just like so special, like just seeing DJ Dents brought back the Ric Flair woo. Because if you're a real OG Clipper fan, and not even a real OG, but if you're a Clipper fan and went to games during the Lob City days, you'll remember that whenever Eric Smith would go, Chris Paul for two, DJ Dents would hit that woo. So we better start hitting that woo, Ric Flair, again, because he's going to hit that. It's going to be so fun. Could you imagine when CP3 gets off that bench on opening night? Hopefully, Intuit rises to their feet the second he gets off the bench, not when the buzzer sounds. We better be all standing the second he gets off that bench. Allah, it's not nearly as big of a deal, but Magic Johnson coming back from HIV type of deal. The reason I use that is because my uncle always said that was an example of like the greatest game he went to when everybody was just watching to see when Magic would get off the bench and then everybody went nuts. That moment when CP3 gets off the bench, what a moment that should be in the swell or wherever you might be sitting. But, it's just so cool to see that. Chris Paul remembers everyone. He's had relationships with everybody, and he said he can't imagine what it's going to be like to play here. A lot of the fans have remained the same. And then this was my favorite part where he goes, the thing that I always truly appreciate about being a Clipper is that it's real fans. Real fans. Y'all ain't coming to the game just for the look or just to show up. Like, it's real fans. I'm excited about this. I watched as this place was being built. I would go as far as to say, and this is just the Clipper fan in me, this is the Intuit Dome. Yes, it's the building that Ballmer built. It's Ballmer's house. But it's the building, the way you talk about the Staples Center is the house that Kobe built. This is the house that Blake and Chris built. Before Chris and Blake, we had no example of, hey, the Clippers are a successful business. Like, they actually, like, consistently do well in what they do. That was never a thing before Chris and Blake. 50-win seasons. We never had 50-win seasons. Consecutive playoff appearances. We won 3 series in those 6 years. And I guess you could say that was definitely a disappointment because we definitely, and I would die on this hill with it, we would have beaten the Blazers for sure in 2016, and we would have beaten the Jazz in 2017, had Blake, and then, of course, in 2016, Blake and Chris not gotten hurt. But it's just that's part of why I'm so been so quote unquote negative about the 2-1-3 era is we already had injury prone stars with Chris and Blake, that's what makes it insane that Chris Paul's still playing. But to go from that to 2 guys that were even more injury prone was such a dagger to the heart. It's we just can't get a break. But Chris said, yeah, I mean, what he said about Clipper fans is real, though. We aren't just coming to the game for the Instagram. We're not about that bougie life. We're not just rich people paying for the games. That's the thing about Laker fans. A lot of the real fans get priced out. We don't. And that's one of the things that's a benefit of being a Clipper fan. And, Justin Russo basically asked him the same question I asked, did you basically build this place? And Chris said, no. I said, seriously, there's a whole legacy of Clippers. And I thought he was being a little generous here because these guys that he's mentioning, he said, Elton Brand, 06 Clippers matter because without that, I'm not even a fan, right? So that matters. We definitely brought in a good amount of fans with that team and those mid-2000s teams. He said BD. Look, I love Baron Davis because he's a Crossroads, local legend, Crossroads, UCLA. And I got his jersey before he even played a Clipper game, but nah, he didn't like playing for us because Sterling sucked, and I get it. He was disappointing. I appreciate that he chose the Clippers, but I don't think he made anything better, really. Norm Nixon, he mentioned. Again, love Norm Nixon. I actually have never seen him play a game for the Clippers. I've only seen him for the Lakers, and he was awesome. But, we didn't accomplish anything in the 80s. We had a bunch of injuries all the time. Derek Smith. Most people Clipper fans don't even know who that is. I saw the highlights of that Bulls game against Michael Jordan where he scored 20-something points. It was dunking all over the place. Now Clipper fans never heard of him because he got hurt. How do we have Bill Walton? That picture on PCH with Bill Walton and Marcus Johnson and Junior Bridgman and Norm Nixon. And it's just how do we have all these guys and we didn't accomplish anything? It's just injuries. It's always bad luck. But anyway, he mentioned everybody. And of course he mentioned Blake. He said you start going back to all them different guys, and especially BG, Blake, DeAndre, all the different guys. And the moral of the story is I love to play this game, but I love my family more than any of it. And he's back home with his family. And I think that speaks for the fans, but of course, mostly his immediate family. And as far as, what he said about the team, he said the cliche of doing whatever I can to help the team win. CP3 has factually helped every single team he's gone to in terms of winning more games. So if that streak continues, we're winning more than 50 games this year. And coming up, going to be talking about what he said about his last season and what he said about who he spoke to. And some Ty Lue praise that's going to shock the Ty Lue haters. Going to be talking about that coming up. All right, the GOAT is home. Chris Paul, arguably the greatest Clipper of all time, is donning the red, white, and blue of your LA Clippers once again. Is it not a great time to be a Clipper fan right now with Chris Paul back in town? I get he's not everyone's cup of tea. He's an emotional diva, ball pounder, yells at some guys. I haven't always heard the nicest things about him as a person, truthfully. I've never met the guy. He seems like an awesome dude, but I've heard the contrary from some people. He's never won a ring, and you can put that down to bad luck and also put that down to him spazzing at certain moments, but I love the guy. He always played hard. He wanted to win, and you can tell he had a palpable hunger to win that no one on our team really had. And I remember Charles Barkley used to always say, the problem with the Clippers is the toughest guy is 6 foot tall. And he was right about that. He was right about that. And that was a big problem with our team too. But, hey man, as far as this season, it's a different role for him, and he was asked about that role. And he just basically said, I'm ready for whatever the team needs. They didn't get into the specifics of, would you be okay with not playing or anything like that? Nobody said anything of that nature, which would have been probably an interesting question to ask. But you're probably, if you ask that, you're under an assumption that Ty Lue has said there are games that he's not going to play, which is something that, as I said, we're just assuming that Chris Paul won't play when everyone's healthy because he's old. But I've been saying on this show that I have a hard time believing with the way Ty Lue views basketball that Chris Paul is going to be catching DNPs if he's healthy. I think he should, because what's the alternative? Nico catching DNPs? And I don't like that idea at all. Because the guard overload, no. I said we didn't need Chris Paul. I'm like more stoked on like just having him on the team, like the nostalgia and like how what this is gonna feel as a fan. Like, it's special. But this was the interesting thing he said. So he said he and Brad have known each other for a while. He said they were working out together in Augusta, Georgia. And then he said he talked to everyone. He talked to Kawhi, talked to James Harden. He said he's been a big fan of Zoo for a while, which cued the Zoos from Clipper Nation. And this was what he said about Ty Lue, which was huge praise, like massive. I have not heard a compliment like this for a coach from an opposing player in a long time. But he said, and we always forget, I almost forgot, Chris Paul had Ty Lue as an assistant coach when he was with us. So they know each other very well. And he said Ty Lue is one of the coaches that I think you have to prepare for him too. A lot of teams respect Ty Lue and his ability. Prepare for a coach? So if he sucks, like everybody on these YouTube comments think, and look, I'm not saying he's flawless, but like, are players flawless? Did Kawhi Leonard not have bad games last season? Did James Harden not have bad games? Like, Ty Lue's entitled to make mistakes as well. Now, I'm not excusing him from our playoff series loss. I think he's a part of that. But to say he's the majority is a joke, in my opinion. It's a player's sport in the NBA. I literally asked Sam Cassell, like, I asked him what percentage of plays are run by the coach, but that's not even just what people criticize him about. Regardless, with the Ty Lue stuff, that's an insane compliment. And Ty Lue's not going anywhere. And you could argue that he's had some chances, but his situation's never ideal. He hadn't had Kawhi for a full playoff run till last year, and he didn't have him for a season. Like, that's what NBA team has won a championship with their best player playing less than half the season. It's never happened. It's not possible. Because you don't get the best version of your team that way. Peaking at the right time. Like, it's a conspiracy strategy. Like, we're just waiting to save him for the end. Like, dude, that didn't work. Like, it's not conspiracy. Like, come on, you think Kawhi Leonard is just going to sit out for months? You're insulting how much he likes playing basketball at that point. But I'm excited, man. And then he said, they asked him about, the million-dollar question, is this going to be your last season? And he said, I don't know. He said, I'm just going to be in the moment. And that's how you should approach it. So there's no farewell tour. We'll see how he feels. I think it's like, if we get close to a title and he just has fun with it, he might do another year. It's just insane to think after Chris Paul had that knee surgery in 2010 that he would still be playing and exceed John Stockton's record of most seasons played by a point guard. 21 with all the hamstring injuries he's had, like 2015 hamstring, 2018 hamstring, 2016 he messed up. How many times did he mess up his hand and fingers reaching for steals and getting caught in guys' jerseys and stuff like that? I mean, so many injuries. The shoulder in Phoenix in 2021. But the weird thing is he's been so healthy since he left the Clippers. Mainly since he left Houston, when allegedly had a new diet or whatever. That part stung when he was so healthy at Phoenix. And it's like, Chris Paul's definitely had some of the most untimely injury luck of any superstar ever, because it always seems to happen in the playoffs for him, which sucks. And it's part of the reason. I mean, I don't know. Look, and then there's I'm very appreciative of the Vito trade, of course, but if that, you can argue that it may have hurt his legacy, but I don't know, like him coming to the Clippers and doing what he did, like no matter what, even if he won championships with the Lakers, let's say he won 1 ring, let's say he won 2 rings, he would be more loved in LA, but he would never be more loved by a franchise, by a fan base than he's with us, even though he's not won anything, because the Lakers have had so many GOATs. Where would Chris Paul even rank there? Is he even a greater Clipper? It would have to depend on how the games went. He would be like on the level of Gasol as a Laker, so like top 10. He's not competing with Jerry, with Elgin, with Worthy, with Kareem, Kobe, Magic. He's not with that if he had gone there. With us, he's top 2. And we'll see if Kawhi, If he leads the Clippers to a ring or like to the finals or to the conference finals again, then Kawhi can get in that mix with Blake and Chris Paul. But right now, I'd consider Kawhi as slightly better than Clipper than Paul George. That's my honest opinion. Because that 2021 run, it felt like Paul George's run in the end, even though Kawhi was better in the first round. Kawhi was better up until the injury, of course, because he's just better than him. But the fact that we got over the hump with Paul George on the court, that matters for me. It does. And I'm not saying that I like Paul George more than Kawhi right now. Like, that's not the case. It's crazy. It's going to be Kawhi's 7th year with the Clippers, but he didn't play 1 year, so it's like his 6th. It just doesn't feel like he's been with us that long. And Zubac, this is going to be his 7th full season. So by the end of the season, he's going to actually have been a Clipper longer than Chris Paul. It's crazy to think about. No doubt one of our best centers ever. Zubac already. He's got more to do. But the fact that Chris Paul has the most seasons out of a point guard ever is like nuts. He had so many injuries. Thank God for modern surgery. That's what I'll say. And definitely, it's a different era. Load management. You have the less practices kind of deal. But the last thing I'll say is, Joey Lynn. And by the way, shout out to Money Mona asking him about the fans specifically. That was amazing because he got a great answer out of him. But Joey Lynn, who was recently on the show, asked about him getting his number retired. And Chris Paul shouted out BG and DJ, which was awesome. And he said it would mean everything. It didn't say like, yeah, I mean, he said it would mean everything. He cares. He loves this franchise. He loves this team. As I always say, while Chris Paul did a lot for us, we did a lot for him. Coming to the Clippers changed his career because he was one of the best point guards in the league when he left New Orleans. But, I mean, those last 3 years, the attention around the Hornets really declined. They made it to the 2nd seed in 2008, and he was second in MVP behind Kobe. And then when they lost to San Antonio that following year, they had a lot of injuries, and there was an insane Western Conference. They finished in the 7th seed and got absolutely obliterated by the Nuggets. And there was that one game that they lost by like 100 points. I'm going to look up how many points they lost by. But that was like Chris Paul got like completely embarrassed by Chauncey Billups and the Nuggets. And yeah, they lost 4-1, right? And CP3 was amazing that year, but they lost 4-1. Chauncey Billups had 22, 4, and 7 and shot 65% from 3. What the? 65% from 3? 19 for 29? What the hell? Former Clipper Chauncey Billups. That is insane. We don't ever talk about that. 65% from 3 in a series. Okay, I didn't expect to give Chauncey Billups this kind of credit on this podcast, but what? Did anybody know that? 65.5% from 3 is ridiculous. 19 for 29? I bet you not all those were open either. But Chris Paul, he had a rough series. The game was 121-63, and it was in New Orleans. I mean, that was very embarrassing. Then the following year, you had the knee surgery. And then 2011, they were the 7th seed and lost to the Lakers in 6. But Chris Paul had a good series against the Lakers and showed people like, hey, Chris Paul still like that. But New Orleans is probably not giving him enough help to be in the championship mix. Him getting traded to the Clippers with Blake and a rising DJ. And we got Karan and then Chauncey. It was like, oh, my God. And we have Mo Williams coming off the bench. It's like he's in the not in the championship discussion, but like on a contender now to be a 2nd round team, actually win a series in a gauntlet West. And now he's gonna be on TV 30 plus times. And he was first team All NBA again and again, and he was in best player in the league conversations again, year in, year out. Not like he's actually in the discussion for best in the league, but top 5. I'm saying he was in top 5 talks in 2011-12, in 2012-13, 13-14, 14-15, even 15-16, he's in there. He's definitely top 10. He was definitely top 10. He could arguably top 5. And the conversation around him just got so much louder because he was on the Clippers getting 30-plus games on national television a season, being in the playoffs every season, not missing it half the time he was in New Orleans, actually winning more than one series like he did with New Orleans. Come on, son. Epic playoff games. 2-game winners in the playoffs. 3-game winners in his first season. Come on now. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, and check out the video of Chris Paul's homecoming and fans' thoughts. And of course, Locked On Clippers right here. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video. Let's get to 8,000 before the season starts, baby. It should be a fun one. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.